Welcome back. Today we're going to look a little bit more into the Love People, Make Disciples brochure. That's the name of it. And we call it Part 2, How to Use People, which the Love People brochure, with the Love People brochure, how to use them. Well, that's kind of what this brochure is all about. It's a sales tool. And everything about the Watchtower is a business. It's a sales tool. We're going to look at the Watchtower, what they're showing on their website. And I think this is it here. This is their website right now. And they have different themes when you go to their website. It shows the earth will survive. Now, if you're selling your business, why do you need to tell your audience that the earth will survive? You see, you're selling your business model. This is all the sales tool. Well, because for your business to work, you're selling everlasting life on a paradise earth. And you're actually selling it so that people will transition when Armageddon comes and this paradise earth will come. So that's why they have articles like this, The Earth Will Survive. You can find out more about it. And they have lots of scriptures that show us that the earth will stand till time indefinite. In the beginning, God created the earth. So if God created it, he must have a purpose for it. So there's a lot of assumptions going on there and not really looking at perhaps some of the history. So we go back, and what I like to do is, we stand back, we look, okay, here's what these guys are selling. Let's look at what another guy is selling regarding the time that we're living in. We'll open this screen up. And this is a news article. This is going back about 3 years, so 2023. So 2020. This was before the last telescope. But let's just give you a little history on this wormwood, this apophis. This is apophis is from a scripture in the Bible. They call it wormwood. And there's some scripture here in Revelation that talks about wormwood. And this guy's written books on it. He's making movies. And he started back when the technology wasn't the best, and they were looking in on this asteroid earlier on, and they found, well, there's some probability it could smash into the Earth. And then all these other telescopes got put in, and the most recent one. And I'm going to show you the what they have so far on this. This is it shows where it's coming. I'll just go off the screen here. You see, there it is there. So we come back. So the closest approach to the Earth on April 13th, 2029 by Apophis, they call it. So there's your asteroid. You see all these other little dots here are satellites. So it's interesting how our solar system is full of all these little satellites, these little dots. So that's all there. So what's kind of unique about this asteroid is coming within our asteroid or our satellite belt where all our satellites sit. So let's just look at that again here. You see how it goes. There's the asteroid going, Apophis. Misses satellites, it looks like. I bet you they lose satellites to these asteroids. This is just one they're tracking. And yeah. So that's quite a ways out. We would think that's quite a ways out. But in the big scheme of things, it's pretty close. They think it's pretty close. So it's an interesting little study. I could talk more on that if you guys want me to, I can. But what I wanted to show you today is how people make money, how religions, these are kind of religions that are making money off this. Let's just look in on this one here for a bit. I'm going to turn my desktop audio on. And here we
hurling
go.
Towards Earth? If so,
this is back a few years ago.
Know about it? And what does the president's new Space Force have to do with it? Take a look.
Thomas Horn is a prolific author and the CEO and co-host of Skywatch TV, known for in-depth reporting on prophecy, conspiracies, and the supernatural. His recent research covers a subject he says is strange and scary.
And it is going to shake the public to the bone.
The Wormwood Prophecy is Horn's latest book, which thoroughly examines Bible prophecy, a known asteroid, and the impact it could have on all of us.
Please welcome to the 700 Club the author of The Wormwood Prophecy, Thomas Horn. It's nice to have you here.
Good to be here, thank you.
Talk a little bit, if you will, about the dream you had last year about an asteroid.
Yeah, it was the most vivid dream that I've ever had. It was frankly frightening.
I'm sure.
I found myself on a mountain running with thousands of other people and an asteroid descending down towards the Earth. But when I woke from that dream, and by the way, I have a history with this that goes back to when I died many years ago, and my wife found me dead, no heartbeat, no pulse. She tried to resuscitate me, and that, at the same time, I saw myself standing in front of a brilliant light somewhere, somehow in my mind.
Okay, so we kind of got the gist of that. This guy's, he's supernatural. He had some supernatural experience, so he claims. What we find in history, people like Russell, the Watchtower Judge Rutherford, these guys, they were ones that were looked upon, and they would talk about their experience, just like this guy. And they would, another one is how the Mormon religion got started, Joseph Smith. And he would talk about how he seen the angel and had these golden tablets and translated the Book of Mormon. So all of these guys, they have these supernatural, and they turn these into religious movements. Now this, I looked at this a bit. These guys are back a few years back. They were selling big time CDs, books, movies. They have a movie out. A lot of business going on here. They're using the Bible for it. And all of these religions over the thousands of years have done this. And it grabs people with fear. They throw a Bible scripture in there, and they take a known event, perhaps. Like this is a known event. This guy's kind of sticking his neck out there. But it looks like the satellites now show that, this is kind of history. It's not going to happen. You know, when we look at how they show this satellite right now. This is just with the 2021 satellite that got put in. This was after they made that Apophis movie and all that kind of stuff. So it's interesting, but what I wanted to demonstrate is there's lots of places out there just like the Watchtower. You see, the Watchtower is not selling the fact that an asteroid's going to hit the Earth, because that could wipe out their narrative, their Paradise Earth narrative. So they're not grabbing onto that yet. We'll see what happens. It's a little ways away from 2029. What we are going to look at with the Watchtower today is we're going to look at this new brochure. And if you go onto the Watchtower site, you see what's new. And you go down, 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 down. You will see it right here, this new brochure, books and brochures. And this publication is designed to help you cultivate qualities needed for our Christian ministry. So we're going to take a look at this brochure today. Love People Make Disciples. It's a sales brochure for the Jehovah's Witness religion. And this brochure is designed to teach all of their publishers who are checking off the box saying, I've went out and witnessed to people. It's to say that they've been trained. And I think they're getting into a position here that the governments are saying, are your ministers trained? Like in Norway, they're being challenged as a religion. And this is going back to court in January. We see a humongous change right now. They're flip-flopping, changing the religion. So it's almost like they're telling the governments, oh, yeah, we have a training program, and it's an interactive training program with our website, and this is how we train our ministers. So this is for their ministers. If you're going to be a minister within the Jehovah's Witness religion, this is the training tool. It's a sales training tool to show you how to be a good minister. Now let's just brush over this, and I'm going to show you something here. So love people, make disciples. Okay, when we're selling, we have to start a conversation with people, with someone else, right, when we're selling. And then we have to do follow-ups. We have to, because we're not going to sell on the first visit. We know that. So we have to do follow-ups. And then we have to close the deal. This is section 3, making the sale, making disciples. That's closing the deal. And then we have all the truths we love to teach. You know how we're going to show the product. The product is everlasting life. And we're going to show you some of that through the appendixes. And we're also going to show our sales team, should you end a conversation. There's a time to end it. Yes, there is. So this is what we're going to go through, folks, today. Now, I want to show you something that's kind of, I thought it was cool. I went right to the 7-step sales process, when to use it and when to break it. So let's look at that just briefly here. And what I want you to look for is to see how stunningly similar they are. So prospecting, preparation, approach, presentation, handling objections, and closing the deal, and follow-ups. Now, I don't know about you, but I think probably a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses get into the sales just because we're trained in the door-to-door work, so a lot of us got into the sales. I ended up in sales most of my life. I ran a business, so I ended up selling for the business. And so here's the sales chart, prospecting. So that's what we're going to learn about through how the Jehovah's Witnesses are teaching prospecting. Preparation is how they're preparing their ministers. And we're going to look at the brochure for the preparation. And then the approach. So here it is, the approach. You see that up there on the screen? Premium approach. So there's a premium approach, a question approach, and a product approach. And that's how the sales industry kind of sums it up. And the Jehovah's Witnesses sum it up very similar. Your premium approach, we're going to look at that, how Jesus did it. The question approach and the product approach. We can come with products. We did the product approach for years and years, where we'd come with a magazine and try to get a product into their hand. And now they're going away from that. So this is a huge change. So then we jump into presentation, and we're going to look at how they're going to show us different ways of presentation. And handling objections. So we're going to get objections, and we're going to look at ways of handling them through this new method. And closing. Well, closing is the same as getting a Bible study. That's like closing the deal. And, let's keep in mind, folks, you have to have a Bible study 3 times before you can really call it a Bible study. Because, it might not turn into a Bible study on the first time that you sit down and kind of have a study. Sometimes that's an overview. You're not really getting into it. And if you can get that happening 3 times, call it a Bible study. You're closing your deal. You place the book, So then it goes on and say alternative choice close, extra inducement close, and a standing room close. So there's different closes, alternative choice close, So do you like the everlasting life on earth, or do you like the everlasting life in heaven? It's kind of, you got a choice here. They both are everlasting life. We're selling everlasting life. But some can go to heaven, and some, like I'm going to be on earth is what when I was a Jehovah's Witness, that's how I would pitch it, right? So you're selling kind of the earthly one, the one you're on. That's the program I'm on. And with that program, you don't have to worry about drinking wine and eating the unleavened bread on the memorial night. You don't have to worry about that, because that's just for the ones going to heaven. So, but we all get everlasting life. So, then you go on and tell them about, could you imagine learning to play an instrument or 2? Learning to sing, learning to be good at this, and trying gardening, and the list goes on of all the things you could try on earth if you had everlasting life. So that's how they kind of pitch it, and they try to close the deal. And sometimes you get people coming to the Kingdom Hall. You notice behind me, They call that a standing room close. If you can get someone coming to the Kingdom Hall right now, you're going to get a standing room close. All the people are going to love bomb that person, and you're going to get a lot of help. Okay, well then there's the follow-up. So that's where it takes the time on our part. JWs are going to teach that. This is all sales, folks. This is all sales stuff. So the textbook, 7-step sales process. That's what they're using here. Prospecting, preparation, approach, presentation, handling objections. What is the objection? Contact with another company. Yeah, contact with another religion. That's one of our problems, right? That's one of the objections. If someone's shopping to see where they're going to take their family to learn about God, about Jesus, well, we have some problems. There's some other religions out there, the Mormons, the Seventh-day Adventists, the Catholics. There's a lot of Christian religion. There's all these little corner churches all over the place. How are we going to close this deal? Contract with another company. Because they could take a contract with another company, right? And we could lose out. So I think one of our things is, well, we don't ask for tithings. I think that was a huge thing, right? But they're kind of asking for tithings now. But, kind of our close was we're not asking for money. That's the second thing, cost, right? It's kind of free. If you're a Mormon, you got to tithe. If you're a Seventh-day Adventist, you got to tithe. Catholics like tithing. They like the 10%. Everyone likes the 10%. Now, the middle one is here, fear of change. Now, if someone has to change a religion, there's that fear of change. So these are some of the objections that we're running up against. And over here we come the required features. So what is the objection? The required features of the religion, the feature breakdown, the resources, the product demo. That's when we get them into the website, perhaps. So the last one here is timing, and timing is so important. So timing's important. For instance, if you can catch people after a funeral or something, we could talk about everlasting life. You see, there's no set presentation anymore. It's all timing. It's all circumstantial. If you're riding on a bus, if you're here, if you're there, it's all good timing. And so let's say you call on someone and someone just died. Here's an opportunity to give them a feeling of friendship, timing. And a limited time offer, well, okay, that's the end is coming any day now. Limited time offer. It's right around the corner. Apophis is coming. They're not using that one, the Apophis one, but I'm surprised they're not. I guess the other companies jumped on that, the other contract religious companies, and that was more of a movie company. Okay, so let's get right into jw.org. Here we are, a letter. We read the letter from the governing body, and we're going to talk here today about starting a conversation. Now, the starting the conversation here is showing an interest in others. That's the first one. So you click on that, and the first thing that comes up, lesson 1, interest in others. What did Jesus did? Well, you know what Jesus did here? He watched the video. That's what it says, watch the video. Or read John 4:6-9. So let's watch the video and see what Jesus did. Here we go. We're going to play this video.
Jesus, tired out as he was from the journey, was sitting at the well. It was about the 6th hour. A woman of Samaria came to draw water.
Give me a drink.
How is it that you, despite being a Jew, ask me for a drink, even though I'm a Samaritan woman?
If you had known of the free gift of God.
For Jews have no dealings with Samaritans.
I don't know. That didn't cut it for me. I didn't, the video didn't really do much for me. Just watch the video. What did Jesus did? Okay, interest in others. We watch the video, then consider, what did Jesus observe about the woman before starting a conversation? And Jesus said, give me a drink. He didn't say, please give me a drink. He said, give me a drink. Give me a drink. Why was this an effective way to begin the conversation? Hey, woman, give me a drink. You know, that wouldn't fly in my household. I'd get water thrown at me. Anyways, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. So we pressed this video. This is the same video here. Give me a drink. Why was this an effective way of starting? I wouldn't use that. I don't see anything effective with that. Because the woman was not supposed to... You see, she's a worldly woman according to biblical standards. So Jesus here is a Jew talking to a Samaritan. It was kind of against the law. But yet he didn't care about the law. Jesus was a little bit of a rebellious that way. We could look up the scriptures a bit. Now Jesus was tired out. He was from the journey, sitting at the well, 6th hour. A woman of Samaria came to draw water, and Jesus said, give me a drink. For his disciples had gone off into the city to buy food. So the Samaritan woman said to him, how is it that you, despite being a Jew, ask me for a drink, even though I am a Samaritan woman? You see, for Jews have no dealings with Samaritans. Well, Jesus didn't care. He was thirsty. Okay, so what do we learn from Jesus? We are more likely to have good conversations if we start with a topic that interests the other person, like water, right? So, imitate Jesus. Be flexible. Do not insist on starting a conversation on a topic you had in mind. Start with something that others are thinking about today. Ask yourself, what is in the news? What are my neighbors, coworkers, or classmates talking about? They're probably talking about, I don't know, jobs, normal stuff, everyday stuff, children, kids. JWs like to dramatize this, and they like to pull stuff out of the news, like the volcano that's happening in Iceland. Is it Greenland? Iceland? Iceland. Okay, so that volcano's going on, so JWs would go to the door and just right away they'd get into that. And they'd use their website maybe, is this the end of the world? Is the world going to last? That's what they get into. Be observant. Ask yourself, what is the person currently doing? What might he be thinking about? What did the person's clothing, appearance, or home tell me about his beliefs or cultures? Well, I don't know how it was with you guys, but during the COVID, a friend of mine that wanted to study, he said he couldn't show his face on the Zoom unless he had a collared t-shirt, a collared shirt. He had to dress a certain way before he was allowed to show himself on the Zoom meeting. So clothing does matter to Jehovah's Witnesses. So they look at that. They focus, what do the person's clothing, appearance, home tell me about his beliefs or cultures? Well, you see, Jehovah's Witnesses, what it could tell them is if they could donate. If a person has a good home, they look clean, they look like they have a job, well, here's some good candidates that could donate. They could help the religion. If a person is on the street, homeless, Jehovah's Witnesses don't call on them. They don't consider those people as important enough. Yet, Jesus did, but they don't. So there is definitely a different standard. I think they're looking for people that can, people are looking for people like them. So you're going to the Kingdom Hall and contributing. So you're going to find people like you that can go to the Kingdom Hall and contribute. And that's kind of closing the deal. So listen, don't talk too much. Encourage the other person to express himself when appropriate and ask questions. So Jehovah's Witnesses like to ask questions. They're very nosy. I was nosy when I was one. And I'd ask all kinds of questions like, when do you go to work? Like we'd be looking for answers as to when we can call on him next and get him at home. Like, do you work during the week or do you work at night? Do you have a night shift job? Like, that's pretty personal questions, right? But what they're doing is lining it up for their next callback. So that's what this video, that's what this stuff, they're going to talk about this, JWs, right? So what did Jesus do? We learned from Jesus, he takes an interest in people. He took an interest at this lady drawing water from the well, and he likened the water from the well to the water of everlasting life, water that you'll never get thirsty ever again. So that's kind of what Jehovah's Witnesses are doing. They're selling everlasting life. That's what Jesus was selling. And like the other Wormwood guy, he was selling books and CDs and stuff, dramatization of some scripture in Revelation, right? That's what he was selling. Okay, the next lesson 2, is naturalness. So we want our sales force to be natural. We don't want them to look robotic. If you can get your sales people out there all over the world doing this very naturally, it's going to be more effective. So here's the principle: a word spoken at the right time. How good is it? Proverbs 15 and 23. Well, what Philip did. What did Philip do? First thing we got to do here is watch the video or read Acts 8 and 31. Well, let's watch the video. So we click on the video here and we're going to click on it. We got it on. Yep.
Like a sheep he was brought to the slaughter, and like a lamb that is silent before its shearer, so he does not open his mouth.
Excuse me. Do you actually know what you're reading?
Really? How could I ever do so unless someone guided me?
So he urged Philip to get on and sit down with him.
I beg you, about whom does the prophet say this? About himself or about some other man?
That's an easy passage.
Philip began to speak, and starting with this scripture, he declared to him the good news about Jesus.
I think that's it. Okay, so that's that. The good news. So Philip gets on. How often do you go out in service and you're out there in service, riding your bike or walking along, and there's some guy reading the Bible and saying, I wished I had someone to teach me this thing, and you're walking, I'm here. The guy says, well, hop on, teach me. And then he gets baptized at the end of the trip. Like, as if that ever happens, right? But that's what this story's kind of about. Watch the video or read it. Now, how did Philip start the conversation? And why was this a natural way to start the conversation, share the new truth with the man? You notice there's no really answers there. You kind of got to give the answers. So they're going to ask this at the Kingdom Hall. How did he start it? Well, he was just jogging. He was at the right place at the right time, the way I see it. And why was it natural? Well, because the guy led into it. Wished I had someone to help me preach or learn this stuff. So what do we learn? If we allow a conversation to develop naturally, it's more like the other person will feel at ease and be open. This is very kindergartenish, you notice. So we're going to go through this rather rapidly. And they do design this stuff for young children, 12-year-olds. Get baptized. New ones. You can actually go out in the ministry and be a minister before baptism. But you'd have to understand this little brochure. So it's written for kids. Imitate Philip. Be observant. A person's facial expression, body language can reveal a lot. And that's good information. You tell your sales team that. If you're looking at their face, you can tell a lot. You can tell if they're even thinking about something else, or if you should just maybe make another visit. Good information. You might introduce a Bible truth by asking, did you know that? Or avoid forcing a conversation with someone who does not want to talk. Good advice. Don't force it. Be patient. Number 4, do not feel that you must introduce a Bible truth immediately. Wait for the right opportunity so you can bring it up naturally. And sometimes this may mean waiting until the next conversation you have with the person. So maybe if you're riding on a bus, go at a bus stop or something like that, you ride the bus every day, And you might slowly, you're going to be patient. That's what they're going to show you here. And be adaptable. A conversation may go in an unexpected direction, so be willing to share something that is relevant to the person, even that means discussing a different Bible truth that you had in mind. Be adaptable. So you see how they're really changing how they've taught from before. Before, they always tried to lead into a magazine placement. So you'd read enough and then you'd whip out the magazines and you'd try to get the magazines in their hands. But not anymore. It's very natural. Take your time. You're not counting time, right? So it doesn't matter. You're riding the bus to work or the subway system, school bus, whatever. You want to be natural. Okay, so that's pretty basic stuff. Let's go to the next one, kindness. This is good sales tips for your training your salespeople. Always be kind. You tell your salespeople, be kind, and that's going to get you a lot of places. Let's look at the movie about being kind. Well, right here, watch the video. You can click that button too to watch the video. And here we go.
Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, so that he was born blind?
Neither this man sinned nor his parents. But it was so that the works of God might be made manifest in his case. As long as I am in the world, I am the world's light. Go wash in the pool of Siloam.
Okay, so let's go back here. I'll just comment on the video a bit. Wouldn't be doing my job right if I wasn't giving some commentary on the video. Now these guys, look at them. They're all young faces. It's like out of acting, out of 1 out of 10, this is probably around the 1, 2-ish. I'm going to give this video for a rating out of 10. Very poor acting. The actors are all young men. Look at them all. They have skin, very smooth skin. They haven't worked. There's no wrinkles. These are not men of that age. Look at this guy, this blind guy. He looks like he's just... I just think they could have got some older brother with wrinkles and really done this right. They grabbed a bunch of kids and they're trying to make them dress them up with beards and stuff. It's just... And then they have that black background. There's no background there. Very cheaply done. I don't know if this is because they didn't have their Jesus Center done yet. And this is the kind of quality they're pumping out. If this is what they're pumping out right now, it's very low quality. It's not going to grab my attention. Anyways, that's enough ripping that apart. But that's my thoughts on it. What did Jesus... Let's see what we could learn from it, I guess. What Jesus did. We watched the video. What did he do first? Healed the blind man, shared the good news, or shared the good news with him. He healed him. Why might Jesus' approach to have made the man more responsive to the good news? Why might Jesus approach? What do we learn? A person will be more likely to listen to our message if he senses that we care about him, of course. Imitate Jesus. Empathize with a person. Try to imagine how he feels. Ask yourself what he may be concerned about. What might he find helpful, appealing? You see, if you're selling everlasting life and you're selling that all this stuff's going to be cured, you can talk about it. All those words are soothing to the ears. And that's kind of what JWs have for people, is soothing words to the ears. They have something for everyone to feel good. And that's why they're going to join the religion. That's why that's what they're hoping, that they're going to join the religion, because what they have to say feels good to the ears. It's not going to cure their blindness. There's not one JW that has the ability to cure anything. Even the governing body, they don't have the power to do any of this stuff. They don't believe in it, for one thing. They don't believe in faith healing or faith curing. They show it here. They can't do it. They can't imitate Jesus. It's kind of a bad illustration in my mind. But I guess you could illustrate Jesus' kindness. Maybe go feed the guy. See, Jehovah's Witnesses don't do that, though. They don't feed people. They don't help people physically. So what are they going to do now, Jehovah's Witnesses, with this information? Because Jesus was about helping people physically. And Jehovah's Witnesses do not have hospitals. They do not fund hospitals that help people with their eyesight so they can see again. They do not have any kind of a hospital out there that they fund. So they're not imitating. You see, some religions build hospitals with donated money, and they help people. Some religions actually go and they build soup kitchens on the streets, on the very slummiest parts of the towns, and they have volunteer people come down there and dish out soup for the poor people. They do what Jesus did. Some religions. You see, if you're selling a product and you're selling them to imitate Jesus, I think Jehovah's Witnesses are going wrong here. I think they're missing the boat here. Speak kindly and respectfully. When you feel compassionate for the person and truly want to help them, it will come through. You can speak all you want, but if you have no intent of helping them with a can of soup or a loaf of bread, they sense that right now. So I don't care how you want to help. Like, if you don't have the proper product, you're not going to close the deal. And there's not one Jehovah's Witnesses that have what Jesus has to close the deal. Let's go on to the next one. Lesson 4, humility. So humility, starting a conversation with humility. It shows these guys up in front of governments. So let's see what this is all about. We're going to look at the video on this.
You are permitted to speak in your own behalf.
Concerning all the things of which I am accused by the Jews, King Agrippa, I consider myself happy that it is before you I am to make my defense this day, especially because you are an expert on all the customs as well as the controversies among the Jews. Therefore, I beg you,
Okay, what did they do here? Let's go back. Okay, their faces were at least better. They used some older people. Like his face, the king there, his face, it's a little older brother, probably in his 40s. He's got wrinkles, not a perfect face. That's better. So they did better there. No background. The background's cheap. The costume, it's really a cheap movie. They must be just beginning at this whole movie making business, because it doesn't look like it's quite there yet. Okay, let's move on. Paul preaches to King Agrippa. What do we learn? How did Paul show humility? Well, they made it look like that in the video. He was very humble. How did Paul draw attention? I don't know. He just used the Bible. They like to make it all about Jehovah. What do we learn from Paul? I think Jehovah's Witnesses could learn a lot from this illustration when they go to court and they're dealing with CSA. I think there's a lot of humility and honesty that they could do. You see, if they were going out in the ministry trying to use these examples, they're going to run into these examples about courts, people asking them about courts, about CSA and courts. Are they going to be humble like Paul and talk about it? Or is this going to be a do not talk? Oh, we got to discontinue this one because they're abrupt or they're getting into topics we can't talk about. You see, that's what's being talked about right now about Jehovah's Witnesses. So are they going to have humility? Is this video going to show them humility when talking to people? Are they going to imitate Paul? Do not be condescending and say, well, the media is all garbage. All of it's garbage? Well, that's what they tell us, and we believe the faithful, discreet slave. You see, they're going to say that. So if we're going to imitate Paul, we don't want to be condescending. That's what the literature says here. And their own literature really tells him what to do. Are they going to do it? Make clear that the Bible is a source of truths you share. So what if someone opens up and says, well, how come your Bible doesn't have John 8:1-11? But my Bible does, and all the other Bibles do, you see. What are you going to do when that happens? Remain mild. Do not insist on making a point. We do not want to argue. Show humility. This is going to be brand new for Jehovah's Witnesses. Show humility by staying calm and knowing when to leave. You know, there's a time to leave, time to stay. A mild response may leave the door open for a productive conversation in the future. So, you know, if you're riding the bus every day, you got to ride that bus every day until you quit that job or get a new one or get a different bus route. And boy, you wouldn't want to get in an argument on the bus and then you have to ride the bus tomorrow, right? You made a big scene. So yeah, this is good info. Humility. I think it's going to be hard for some to move in that direction. Let's go to tact, lesson number 5. Lesson number 5, tact. What Paul did, this is a Paul scenario. Let's go to the video.
Men of Athens, I see that in all things, you seem to be more given to the fear of the deities than others are. For instance, while passing along and carefully observing your objects of veneration, I found even an altar on which had been inscribed to an unknown God. Therefore, what you are unknowingly worshiping, this I am declaring to you.
Okay, so another cheap movie. Like, they're cheap movies. Look at them. There's no back scene, just dark. Plastic rocks. All young kids, smooth-skinned faces. If Paul was traveling to Athens, he'd be talking to along that route where he was traveling was all those religious guys. Those I don't know, all the religious people from all over the world would be there, and they didn't know about Christianity. You wouldn't have these young children there. Like, they could get better actors, I think. Got a bunch of young people here. See, they would have intellects, people, old guys with long beards and rabbi kind of looking guys here, but not a congregation, Jehovah's Witness congregation. Anyways, that's just me picking it apart. We all know that story. Paul goes up there and says, I come here to speak about this unknown God. There was an unknown God marked on some pillar as he walked up to the town. And it was just his way of talking about something in their town that was common to them. So they talk about it. Yeah, he says, I know who that unknown God is. And they say, really? It says unknown. How do you know? So Paul comes up and, they didn't even talk about it like that. That's how I would have gave it. But, you could use that in a number of different ways. It's not a bad illustration. It's just a illustration. Okay, so what do they say about it? How did Paul feel about the false religious practices? He never really got into it. Rather than condemn the Athenians, how did Paul tactfully use their beliefs as a way to share it? What do we learn from Paul? That people are more likely to listen to us if we carefully choose what we say as well as how and when we say it. Imitate Paul, choose appealing words. For example, when speaking with someone from a non-Christian background, you may need to adjust the way you introduce the Bible or how you refer to it. Especially if you're in other countries, India, 1 out of 25,000 people in India is a Jehovah's Witness, so they're unheard of. So could you imagine there? So the Watchtower, as they delve into these countries, they have to change their tactics. And do not be quick to correct a person. Allow him to express himself freely. So when you go up to the cart now, we know that in their instruction manual, you're allowed to go up to the cart, and they should allow you to talk. So it says right here, allow him to express himself freely. You could show them in their training manual. If he says something that conflicts with the Bible teachings, which you're going to, right? You're going up to the cart witnessers. You're going to say something that conflicts with them. Well, they're taught here to resist any urge to argue. So they're going to stand there like this. And then you're going to wonder, well, what are they thinking? Did they get? And you might just be blasting them with stuff. And what about this? And what about this? And they're standing there like this. So you see what the Watchtower is doing. They're they might as well have a bunch of robots. They might as well just hire a bunch of drones or robots, and they're all programmed to act just how the Watchtower wants them to act, because that's what they're doing here. So yeah, so if someone says something, the Watchtower people are just going to listen. And it says, by listening to him, you gain insight into his viewpoint. So the Watchtower people are supposed to listen to you if you're coming to the cart, and they're supposed to gain your viewpoint. So you could actually turn away a JW. You could turn them if they're supposed to really listen to you. Day after day, you could stop and have a new point. You could keep talking and keep talking and keep talking. They're going to count it as return visits. I don't know if they count return visits. They just check one box. They went out in the ministry. Maybe they're a pioneer. If they're a pioneer, they're going to count the hours. So I think a lot of the pioneers are going to be using this stuff more so than the common person. And then it says agree and commend the person where possible. So if they can agree with you. So if you go to the cart and you say, well, you would like a society full of, reverse this. So you go up to the cart and you say, it'd sure be nice to have a society where there was no problems, right? No child abuse and things like that. And they say, oh, yeah, we don't agree with any of that. And you could get right into it and say, well, what is your religion doing about that 2-witness rule? Just get right into it. And they're top of the list. There's more about JWs and the Catholics out there, and it's the top of the list for child abuse, hiding it all over the world. It's on the news everywhere. And then the 2-witness rule and the shunning. What do you say about all that? You see, they're supposed to agree and commend the person where possible. And it says he may sincerely believe that his religious beliefs are correct. Build common ground first, and then progressively help to understand what the Bible teaches. You start getting into this stuff with Jehovah's Witnesses, I don't know what they're going to do. I honestly don't know how they're going to handle it. I think they're going to go down to Appendix B, should you end the conversation? We'll wait till we get there. So we're on lesson 5, tact. And how many lessons do we have here? Let's go right back to this booklet here. Love people. Okay, so here we have it, lesson 5. We're going to do one more lesson, boldness, and that's going to cover section 1, starting a conversation, how to start conversations with people. So we're going to cover that. And then on our next video, we're going to cover section 2 and section 3, following up and making disciples. So let's get right into boldness, and let's see what this lesson has for us. Now, of course, when we get in here, the very first thing it says is watch the video. So that's what it says for all of them. We're going to watch the video and get that up on the screen for you here.
Now, a man named Zacchaeus was there. He was a chief tax collector, and he was rich. He was trying to see who this Jesus was, but he could not see because of the crowd, since he was short. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore tree in order to see him.
Zacchaeus, hurry and get down, for today I must stay in your house.
With that, he hurried down and joyfully welcomed him as a guest.
Yeah, I didn't really get the punch of that one either. I don't know. Zacchaeus, the guy climbs a tree to see Jesus. Boldness. So that's what they're trying to get there. You got to be bold. When you're selling, you have to be bold. If you're a salesman, you have to be bold. You have to, I guess in some cases, go climb a tree to make a sale. Principle, we must muster up boldness by means of our God to tell you the good news. What did Jesus do? Well, what might some people have avoided? Why might they have avoided Zacchaeus? And what moved Jesus to share the good news with them anyways? I don't know. Okay, let's carry on. What do we learn from Jesus? We need boldness to preach the kingdom message impartially. Well, he was climbing to see Jesus. So Jesus was like the hero here. He was like going to the rock concert to get the front seats or climb up to see someone that was important. So Jesus talked to him. So I guess if you're going to go to the rock concert, get on the front stage, make sure the rock concert guy can see you, climb a tree, get on someone's shoulders, and do whatever you need to do to get the attention of the star. Is that what you do at an assembly? I don't know what they're getting at here. Imitate Jesus. Rely on Jehovah. God's Spirit empowered Jesus to preach. It can empower you too. I didn't see that in the video. Do not prejudge people. We may hesitate to approach some people because of their physical. Well, he was a short guy, so does that mean if there's short people, we're not going to talk to them? I don't. Why are they even talking about this? It's just stupid. Jehovah and Jesus can read hearts. We cannot. No one is beyond the reach of Jehovah's mercy. Balance boldness with tact and caution. I just think the video didn't explain any of that stuff. Does the scripture explain it? They really fell short on this one, I think. Then he entered Jericho, was passing through. A man named Zacchaeus was there. He was a chief tax collector and he was rich. Well, he was trying to see who this Jesus was, but he could not see because of the crowd since he was short. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore tree, and in order to see him, for he was about to pass that way. Now, when Jesus got to the place, he looked up and said to him, Zacchaeus, hurry, get down, for today I must stay in your house. And with that he hurried down and joyfully welcomed him as a guest. And when they saw this, they were all muttering. And he went as a guest to the house of the man who is a sinner. Big deal. I didn't get this whole thing. But anyways, boldness. Zacchaeus was bold. He was a rich guy that wanted to see Jesus. So, yeah, there you have it. There's your first lessons. In starting a conversation or making a sale, if you're going to make the sale, you have to start the conversation. You have to have an interest in people. You have to be natural. You have to be kind. You have to have humility, especially if you're in front of leaders or people of authority. So you're going to have humility. And you have to have tact. And you have to have boldness. So there's what we have today, folks. I hope that helps you a bit. I hope that helps you a bit in understanding the brochure. And next part, we'll get into the follow-ups. So until next time, keep living your life with love. Bye for now.